You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us on August 11th at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum for a celebration of hope featuring guest speaker Tim Tebow and musical artist Ben Fuller. Find out more and get your tickets at HIA10.com. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode up at Gladia today. I have a member on the podcast, a fellow member on the podcast, someone whose story is very similar to mine. Please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Corey Hale.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. We really haven't played that much golf together. We should play more. We're
Correct.
also in similar industries, which makes us really busy and can't do our own schedules. But finally, I think we teed it up in Jimmy Austin was the first time, which is hilarious. The first time we played together wasn't at our own club. But yeah, Corey's from Australia, so you got another person to listen to that sounds funny for the next 45 minutes, and also a golfer. So, like I said, very similar story to mine. I mean, do you miss Australia?
I do. Obviously miss family. Everyone's back home still. I grew up in Newcastle, which is 2 hours north of Sydney, east coast of Australia, on the ocean. So I miss surfing, miss family, lots of good golf back home. But yeah, it's nice being over here. It's home now. Yeah.
Is it Sunbelt? Is it Sunbelt? Is that what they call it? Sandbelt?
Sandbelt.
Is it Sandbelt golf?
That's more down in Melbourne.
Okay.
That's where our best golf courses are. But yeah, it's definitely sandy terrain, right on the ocean there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more city lifestyle, I guess you could say.
Is it similar to here then, where you grew up? Like golf course wise?
Yeah, not as many private golf courses.
Yeah.
It's more public.
Yeah. But yeah, golf courses like parkland, not links.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I grew up kind of, it's a mix of both. It has a little, it's a link style.
Yeah.
9 holes that goes back up onto the ocean there. But the front 9's more parkland style.
Yeah. Where does your golf story start? What's your first memory of the golf?
I guess just growing up with Dad. Dad was a golfer as long as I can remember. He's a true left-hander. I'm actually a lot of people don't know this, but I'm actually a true right-hander. So watching him when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I just assumed that's how you hit the golf ball.
Okay.
Left-handed. So when it was time for me to start, I'd already been swinging the club like that, and that was my dominant side. So he got me into golf when I was 12, which looking back on it now, that's pretty late.
Sure, yeah, in the grand scheme of things.
But back then, you couldn't join a club or you couldn't start unless you were 12 years old.
Okay.
So that was the minute I hit 12, my birthday, he signed me up for golf lessons, and that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah, for me there were 2 golf courses. One my granddad played, and you couldn't join until you were 12, but you could play as like an associate member as long as you're with an adult if you were under 12.
Sure.
And you have to be like 8 to 12. And then my golf course my dad played at, I joined there for my 8th birthday because you had to be 8 to be a member.
Yeah.
And like, it's the greatest day ever, right? Your 8th birthday, you're like, I'm literally playing golf sun up to sundown. Like, the best thing in the world. Other than dad, do you have like family that plays as well then?
No, I grew up, all my family, my mum and dad and uncles, cousins, they're all sailors. I tried that once. I wasn't a huge fan of it.
No?
Once was enough, and I played rugby league, soccer, a bunch of different sports growing up. And then dad got me into golf, and eventually golf took over when I was roughly 14.
Yeah, safer to play golf than play rugby league.
I was playing rugby league, and everyone was growing quicker than I was, and everyone was starting to get injured around that 14 years old mark, and I was like, that's enough for me.
Yeah, I kind of the same for me. I grew a little faster. I think the most I went tall, but I didn't fill out like everybody else did, so I was just a beanpole. That I was like, that's just not good to be playing.
I was the same way. I was skinny and tall, but I just got smashed.
Yeah, it's not. I do miss like just being around that, and I was never big into like that rugby league culture anyway, but I do miss being around the schoolboys that were, because they're always a great laugh, right? It's always good. There's always something's going to happen if you're around a bunch of rugby players.
Yep.
Whether it's drinking or something stupid.
Every time.
You mentioned surfing.
Yep.
Obviously, that's huge in Australia.
Yep.
Everyone loves the water in Australia. Do you still? I mean, have you been down to Riversport in Oklahoma City to try and get on the machine?
I haven't done the machine yet. We've done the what's the other one that opened up, the whitewater rafting?
Oh yeah,
we did that a few years ago.
Okay.
That was really cool, but still haven't been down to the surfing concept yet.
God, I'm terrible at swimming, and surfing in Wales was better for people in the winter, because for some reason the sea is warmer in the winter than it is in the summer. Yeah. I had no idea until all my buddies were like, yeah, we're going surfing. And like, it's 30 degrees outside and it's raining.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's great in the water. Yeah. Like, that makes no sense to me.
In Australia, the waves are a lot better in winter.
Yeah.
The surf is a lot calmer with the offshore wind. The waves hold up a lot better. So the waves are much bigger and better in the winter.
And obviously you've got, big surf competitions coming to town as well.
We do.
It's not just 3 or 4 foot waves off the coast in Wales. It's like legit.
Sure.
Yeah. So golf at 12. When do you really think that, man, I'm good at this? Like, do you immediately kind of take after it, or does it kind of come to you later?
12, basically the program back home in Australia at the time. So dad signed me up for beginner golf lessons with other kids. It was a 10 or 12 week golf course for 1 hour every Sunday. So we did that, and then once you graduated from that, you went to a 9-hole competition every Sunday morning, which was really cool. You'd get up at 6:30 in the morning on Sunday, go play 9 holes with 25, 35 other kids, come in, have a presentation, and then go have a 1 hour golf lesson with a pro. So that was really cool. Did that for, I guess, a year to 18 months. And then they basically tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you've progressed. You're now good enough to join the club.
How good is that?
So it was a great introduction into golf.
Why do more people not do that?
And the good thing when you join the club, and I was fortunate that my dad was a member, I could just go play with him and his buddies. His buddies were great to me growing up and allowed me to join in whenever they played. So that was a cool introduction for me. So when I was 13, 14, I was just playing Saturday, Sunday comps with my dad. School holidays, I played Wednesday comp. But I was there basically every day during school holidays. And then when I was 14, I guess that's when I can say I started to get a lot better. I won the club championships when I was 14 and 9 months.
Nice.
Which
That's
was
a good
the
start.
only reason I know that was I was the youngest ever win at that point. So that's why I know it was 14 and 9 months.
Do you still have that record?
I do.
Nice.
I do. So I think I got down to scratch during that time. I think I shot my first under par round during the club championships that I won then. And then I started to play more junior golf tournaments across the state and got into the New South Wales State Development squad, and then eventually got into the state team, and then we were traveling everywhere at that point.
That's what's great about, like, Wales is very similar to that. Is, you know, you play for your club, right? You make for your club team, and then you make like your state team, and then you travel, right? Like, and it's always, for us, it was foursomes in the morning, singles in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Right, and it'd be a 10-man team.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Like, and back home, like, your state team is aged. It's like under 14s, 16s, 18s, and then men's team.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so many great memories from traveling, just playing games like that.
Absolutely. It's kind of like a junior Ryder Cup or a Walker Cup or it's something of that nature. But yeah, you're right. Like, when I got in the development team, it was probably 15 and 16 years old, and then if you were good enough or lucky, you'd maybe get in the state team when you were 16 or 17, and then junior golf was over when you'd turned 18.
Right, yeah. So what's the state team called for you?
So I grew up in the state of New South Wales.
Okay.
And that's where Sydney is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the other thing people probably won't know listening is Australia's like golf program, like the national team, is very, very good.
Yep.
Compared to pretty much everywhere else in the world. Like, they're amazing.
We have to develop players in that system because of our population.
Okay.
We only roughly have less than 30 million people.
Yeah.
Where in the US, we have roughly 330 million.
Right. And most of the population in Australia is around the same area.
Correct,
rather than
correct.
Like
So
half of it, more than half is just middle of nowhere, right?
Exactly.
You don't want to go.
You
Big spiders and kangaroos.
There's not a lot in there.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to go through that path to develop players to get them to a decent level to then figure out where they want to go in golf if they want to take it further.
Yeah.
But I think that's why you see a lot of guys that get to Corn Ferry or European Tour or the PGA Tour, when they get there, they generally stay there.
Yes.
They've been given all the resources and information and training their whole junior career, and they're pretty prepared once they get there. Yeah,
that's kind of what I noticed as well. Is like, you know, for us in the UK, we'd play some of the bigger amateur tournaments in the UK, and you'd always have like South Africans, Australians, and guys from New Zealand. The Kiwis would just come over for the summer, which is your winter, effectively, right? But still, like, you gotta have money and funding for that, and you'd bring like, you know, 5 to 10 guys over. And like, how are you guys doing this? How do I do this? Right? That's incredible. But I'm trying to find. There's a kid who made his pro debut at the Corn Ferry tournament in down at Jimmy Austin. He's 18. I don't know if he's South African. He might be South African. But he's basically had like the greatest 12 months ever. He won British Am, played US Open, Masters, or Masters US Open, and then you know, after the US Open turned pro, and his first event was Corn Ferry, and he's 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
Like, what a hero.
And it's so different.
And he looked comfortable out there too.
Yeah, and they're so prepared and just ready to go.
Yeah.
But here in the US, you finish, you just go to college, and then you're a couple of years behind.
Yeah.
Behind's the wrong word, but you're a couple of years older by the time you turn pro.
Yeah, you're 23, 24, whereas some of these kids are coming out with 18, 19, 20. Like, you look at, what's his name? Neiman, right?
Yeah.
And Akshay. Akshay was like, I'm not going to college, I'm going to turn pro.
Yeah.
And now he's, you know, on the tour now after 3 years of grinding.
Right.
Which, you know, some of these kids, he would be, a junior in college?
Right. I mean, I like both programs. I mean, obviously in the US, most people go to college here, and if you're a golfer, you're more than likely at a pretty good program. Once again, all the resources, training, you get flown all over the country, play golf tournaments. So once you graduate, you're ready to go as well.
I mean, for me it was amazing. It was the opportunity to get out of Wales, and not that was a bad thing, but it was just an opportunity to just travel, right, and get an education, and then I end up living here.
Right.
So how for you then do you transition to thinking, you know what, I don't want to go to college in Australia, I want to go to college in the States? Were you older when you came here?
I was 18.
Okay.
It's actually a funny story. I wasn't thinking of going to college. It wasn't really in my mind. I just graduated high school, and I was up at schoolies, which is basically a spring break.
Okay.
When you graduate in Australia high school, everyone goes away and just parties for a week. So I go up there. It's probably the second day. I just turned 18, and my mom and dad called me and said, "Hey, Rian Gibson just called, who's a good friend of mine. He's obviously, we both know him. He lives over here now from Australia, but we grew up together in the same state, playing junior golf." So he calls my parents and says, "Hey, may have an opportunity for Corey at Oklahoma Christian. Would he be interested?" So mom and dad call me, and I'm partying with my friends, like I'm not thinking about anything. So I said to mom, I was like, "When do I need to be there? What are the details?" She said, "You need to be there in 3 weeks." So I need to know in the next 48 hours, because we need to apply for student visas, paperwork. It's like, oh gosh. So I said to my friends, I was like, "Guys, I'm staying in tonight. I got some pretty big decisions to make." After going back and forth all night, I didn't sleep all night. And then I finally got a couple hours sleep, and I woke up and I just called mom and dad, and I was like, "You know what? Let's do it. I'm gonna go over to America." I had no idea what Oklahoma was, knew nothing about Oklahoma Christian. So we applied for the visa, did all the paperwork, and I was in the US 3 weeks later.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Because that's not like everybody else's story.
No, everyone
right?
has a plan.
Yeah.
Like this was just literally, I made a decision in 48 hours, and 3 weeks later I was in the coldest place I've ever been.
Because you started your first semester
I started in January.
Oh, yeah.
And that's another funny story. So I land in LA, my flight gets canceled to Oklahoma, because I was meant to land roughly 4 or 5 p.m., as you normally do. Yeah. I get in at midnight. Coach Lynn, Rian are at the airport to pick me up. We drive back to school. Coach says, "I'll pick you up at 8 o'clock in the morning for breakfast, and we'll drive around school." So I wake up, there's a foot of snow on the ground. I'd never seen snow before. So it was already the coldest place I've ever been. And then 2 days later, we're playing golf at Oak Tree National. So that was a pretty crazy few days.
Yeah, welcome to Oklahoma.
Exactly, yeah. And then, so we had qualifying for, it's a long time ago, but I'm guessing 2 or 3 weeks. I made it on the team, and then we go play San Diego. So that was a place that's familiar. Yeah. Well, I'd never been there, but the climate was familiar. Green grass, leaves on trees, 70 degrees, no wind. So that was good. Then we come back to Oklahoma for 1 week, and then we went to Connecticut to play up at Yale. And on the 16th hole, it starts snowing. So I'm in the restroom. I got no feeling in my hands. I can't feel my face. I've never experienced conditions like this. So I'm in the restroom on the 16th hole, just hot water, just trying to get feeling in my hands, and Coach Lynn walks in and just starts laughing. It was pretty funny.
That is brilliant. Yeah, because I thought mine was kind of rushed, and I made the decision in May, which generally is late on on average. But man, that's so. What did someone just drop out? Did someone just not show up? So they had funds available?
Yes. So back then they were NAIA.
Yeah.
They're now D2. So recruiting and scholarships were a lot different. So coach generally recruited international guys, and you see that a lot.
Yes.
In that conference back then, like Oklahoma City had a lot of internationals. Everyone we played had a lot of internationals. We had that year that I was on the team, it was Reen and I, both from Australia. We had a guy from Argentina, a guy from Bolivia, and one guy on the team from Lubbock, Texas. But we still had, on the squad, we had 2 guys from England, a guy from Scotland. There was a lot of internationals on the team. So that's kind of, he was looking on the international stage, I guess you can say.
Sure.
And then Rian kind of, I guess, threw my hat in the ring, and I got a phone call.
Yeah, that's like, for a coach, that's some of the greatest ways to recruit, is just ask your players, like, who do you know that you can play with? Who can play?
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
And no player is going to say someone that they don't value, right?
Yeah, right.
Like,
they're
trust it.
Usually good at, or decent at golf, and you get on really well with them.
Yeah, because it's such a gamble, as a coach, right? Like, make a video. It's like, the way I had to do it was I had to make a video and send it to a bunch of people, and like one of the coaches like, oh yeah, you look decent, like I'll offer you a scholarship. Like,
yeah.
I hit that shot like 8 times.
Yep.
Like nobody knows that, right? and it was like, I hit a couple of good ones like the second time or whatever, but still, like,
right.
It's such a gamble,
It's a huge gamble. Coach Lynn, I don't recall ever sending videos or anything.
Right. Yeah.
He basically went word of mouth through Rian.
Right.
Took a huge chance on me, and I didn't graduate, but I'm very thankful for it, because it honestly changed my life. That's the reason why I'm here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think it's easier, obviously, if you're a D1 or you're a bigger school, it's easier because the kids that you're generally going after, you've locked them in before they've even graduated. They've got a will ranking. They're traveling as they probably play for the national team.
Yeah.
But like that, that NAIA to Division 2, Division 3, or even lower D1, you're just like flicking coin, like hoping for the best, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it changed my life too, coming here and just having that opportunity and that chance. How long had Reen been on the team at that point? Was he how are you guys close in age?
He's 2 years older than me, so he was either...
So he was about to be a junior then.
Sophomore or just going into junior.
Yeah. It's so good to come out here and first day wake up, it's snowing.
It was insane.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that morning. Coach took me to the McDonald's in front of the school there on Memorial and Bryant, I think it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll always remember that morning.
So awesome, and he's still around.
He's still around. He's a great guy, and he does a hell of a job.
Yeah. I mean, the new facility that came 5-6 years ago is incredible, and now he's the AD now. Right?
He's AD now. Still runs the golf program. But yeah, the facility's incredible. I wish we had that and Reen and I have spoken a bunch about it. I know he uses it during winter because obviously it's not great here to practice for professional golf, but it would have been nice to have that back when we were in school.
So during your first semester, like once you go through basically, the spring semester and you do all that, are you like, I cannot wait to get home for the summer?
The first couple of months I was okay, and then I got really homesick. Yeah. I'm not going to lie.
I did too.
I was really homesick. I was to the point I was counting down the days.
Yeah.
I come from a very close family, and given that I made my decision in 48 hours, it wasn't a planned thing.
Yeah.
I got here really quickly, and I just don't think I was ready for it. It was a culture shock, and that's the first time I've been away for that long from my family.
Yeah.
So I couldn't wait to go back. But yeah, I loved the golf. I loved everything about the US, but I was just homesick.
Yeah. What's the time difference? Is it 18?
It's 16 hours.
16 hours.
Yeah.
So, is it because
it's currently 1:15 a.m. on Saturday morning.
Okay, so it's not so bad where like there's a block in the day here where you're like everyone's up back home, like in FaceTime or whatever.
Yeah, so back then there was no FaceTime,
Skype or whatever it was.
It was Skype, and I basically purchased phone cards that I could just call at any time. It was a little difficult back then because mum and dad were both working back then. Right. They're now retired, so I talk to them every day now. It's easy. You got FaceTime. I can text through Viber or WhatsApp any time of day. But back then I had to wait until 11 p.m. To call them. They were just getting off work, and then really early in the morning. Yeah. So I was always awake. Right. I didn't really. I mean, every college students, they don't really sleep great, but I had to stay up so I could talk to family and friends. Yeah.
I had the same. Like I missed home, and I didn't play I got here and I was ineligible when I got here. Yeah. And I didn't know that until I got here, which sucked. Yep. So the worst thing for me was like on the weekends. Like I played golf, I still played with the team Monday to Friday, but on the weekends after 6 p.m. the difference was 6 hours. So 5, 6 p.m. was when everyone's going to bed. Yeah. It's like, oh, now what do I do? Yeah. Like it's hard to explain that, like missing home. Yeah. Right. Like it's kind of like a gut. It's like a sick feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, there's nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing you can do about it. You can't get home quick. Yeah. You're in school, so you just can't pack up and leave. But yeah, it was a tough feeling back then for sure.
How was college career?
I was only here in 2006. I moved back to Australia. Like I said, I
didn't graduate.
I was pretty homesick. I didn't graduate. It was coach gave me time to go home and kind of figure out if I wanted to come back. As soon as I got home, I knew that I was staying. So I sent him an email just thanking him for everything that he'd done for me and just telling him that I wouldn't be coming back. During that time, I didn't know what I was going to do next, and then the guy that actually coached me going back to when I was 12 for those beginner golf lessons, he had just taken over as a head golf professional at my home club at Belmont Golf Club. So him and his business partner, Graham and Kurt, they needed a trainee golf professional. So I basically sat down with them and they offered me a job, and I did my PGA membership course. Yeah. So I did that. That would have been 2007 to 2009. So basically play your Monday golf tournament for money. Not a lot of money, but it was, I think the winner may have got $1,000. So you'd play that on a Monday, and then I'd basically work Tuesday to Sunday. Yeah. And that was roughly 40 hours. That could be in the golf shop. It could be 5 hours of coaching included. It was a number of different things.
Yeah. At that point, you think, this is it. This is my career now. Like, I'm kind of happy where I'm at. I got my people around me. I'm home. Like, I'm going to be a teaching professional.
Absolutely. I was really comfortable. That's a club that I grew up in since I was 12. I knew everyone. As soon as I got into that role, I met all the lady members, all the senior members. I literally knew every member, as most head pros do. Yeah. So I was super comfortable in that environment and area. I thought, exactly, this is it. I'm happy here. I finished that in 2009, and then I was the assistant pro 2010. I was making a lot better money. I was coaching maybe 20 hours a week, maybe 15 to 20 hours in the shop. So that changed a lot, where I was actually outdoors and I was doing what I wanted. Right. So I was really enjoying that. And then I had a lot of friends that were turning pro and actually traveling back to the US or in Europe. And then I just started playing more golf, and I was like, you know what, I may still have it. And then the last year, sorry, to go back a year, in 2009, I come second in the Australian Trainee Championships. The guy that beat me was from England.
Okay.
And the top Australian in the Australian Trainee Championships, they get a start in the Australian PGA, which is now co-sanctioned with the European Tour. Back then, it was just an Australian Tour event. So that was my big... it was eye-opening because you got Adam Scott, John Sandon, Greg Chalmers, all those, Aaron Badley, Appleby, Allenby, all the Aussie guys used to come back then, because that was before the PGA Tour wraparound season. Okay. So that kind of opened my eyes, and then I started playing a lot more in 2010 when I was the assistant pro. And then I told my bosses, I was like, I'm going back to America.
Yeah. So you came over here as to play like APT and... Yeah,
so January 2011, Reen and I were talking. He was playing, back then it was the Hooters Tour.
Yeah.
They were playing for roughly $200,000 per week. It's a lot different compared to now. I think we had 18 events on the schedule. Most of it was on the east coast of the US. There's maybe 2 events in Houston. But yeah, I come over January 2011. I lived with Reen and Nancy. They were kind enough to let me live with them for 12 or 18 months, and Reen and I basically just played the Hooters Tour.
So, living the dream. Yeah. So you came over on a what is it, a P1 athlete visa?
Yeah, so because it wasn't affiliated with the PGA Tour, I had to get a B1, B2 visa, which is kind of it's a tourist / business visa.
So you still make money.
You can only be here for a period of time, but you can make money in your profession only, your industry. So I could only play golf. I couldn't coach golf. I could only play for prize money.
Right. So you come back over here. Are you living with Reen and Nancy in Oklahoma and then traveling to the East Coast every time?
So Reen, we were living at their house in Edmond. And then Reen and I would drive to the East Coast every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we'd drive out there, we'd drive back for a week, and then drive back out there.
How long did you do that for?
Too long. Probably 2.5 years.
Okay.
2.5 years. So that was great experience. It was rough. I'll be honest, I played awful the first 6 months. I missed a lot of cuts, spent a lot of money. And then I got on a bit of a roll where I was making cuts every week, and it was a lot more enjoyable. I would basically stay here. I'd go back to Australia 3 or 4 times a year. I'd stay here until the end of October, and then as soon as it started to get cold here, I'd go back to Australia because it was the summer.
Right. So that's kind of the perfect scenario for you guys. I had 5 years of summer only.
Yeah. So that was
leaving the sunshine. You got to go meet the sunshine.
Yeah.
So not dealing with Oklahoma wind and ice storms.
Yeah. So that was perfect. And then 2012, I went to Australian qualifying school for the Australasian Tour. Got my card there, so I had status down there every year, probably until 2017, I think.
Yeah.
So I'd always go back for 3 or 4 months during Christmas.
What back to playing in the Aussie PGA? What was that like? Was that your first time big event?
Yeah. It was eye opening, just showing up and you see all the guys that you've looked up to on TV. You got two reps there giving you free stuff, unbelievable players lounge, chiropractor, massage, someone stretching you. I was like, wow, this is what they do every week.
Yeah.
It was pretty eye opening. And then I had a bunch of friends and family come up that week, so that made it really special. So
Yeah. Tell me about going to China, because you played PJ Tour China, right?
I did.
That's got to be an experience. There has to be some stories from PJ Tour China.
It was quite the experience.
Who did you travel with?
I traveled with, my first year I traveled with a couple of Australians. And then I met a bunch of guys from the US, and we eventually just traveled all together. My roommate the last year was Charlie Saxon.
Okay.
Obviously, we all know him. He's from OU on the Corn Ferry. But yeah, there was a bunch of guys from the US. I'd say out of the whole field, call it 140, 150 guys, there was probably 10 to 15 guys from the US, maybe 10 Australians, 10 guys from Europe and South Africa, and then the rest were Chinese players.
Yeah.
So there was a decent amount of international guys.
Yeah. How long did you do that for?
I played in China 2000. So we got married in 2017. So it would have been 2017, 18, 19.
Okay. So fairly recent then.
Yeah. I quit basically just before COVID.
Yeah.
So it was pretty recent.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're over there. You mentioned you got married before you went over there.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you're living with Reen. You meet your wife.
Yeah.
You get married. Easiest way to a visa, maybe. Shout out to those who got married for a green card. There's 2 of them in this room. Sharon, I love you. She doesn't listen, so it's fine. So you guys get married, and then you think, I'm going to go give PJ Tour China a whirl, because that then would lead you to Corn Ferry or Web.com, whatever it was at the time.
Yeah.
And that's your way then actively to the PJ Tour.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me about China. What's the stories you have? It must be I've been to Japan once, and it was the biggest culture shock I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I loved it. What was China like?
China was interesting. It's as you mentioned, it's run by the PJ Tour. So you have, back then you had PJ Tour China, the Canadian Tour, which I think is called Mackenzie Tour.
Yeah.
And Latin America. They all feed into now the Corn Ferry Tour. So it was owned and operated by the PJ Tour here in the US. So we had all American rules officials, executives, guys living over there full time. So they took care of us unbelievably. We basically just had to fly there, get to the event. They would basically bus and shuttle us around from hotel to golf course, and then if there was the next event was within, say, 4 hours, we would all just get on a couple of buses and go to the next event.
How good is that?
It wasn't always like that. There was times where you had to fly 6 hours. China, I didn't realize how big China was, but it feels like every flight is 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So the tour was great. They did an unbelievable job. They did their best with player lunches and the locker room, just trying to make you as comfortable as possible. But yeah, communicating, it was very difficult.
How's your Chinese?
Not very good.
Not good.
Still the same as 2017. So yeah, we got in some certain situations where you're in an Uber or a taxi, and it wasn't an Uber, it was basically just a taxi, but you can't communicate. You're basically just pointing at your phone saying, I need to get here, and they have no idea what you're saying. So it was pretty interesting. I remember my first night in China. I was for the Q school. I flew over there. I get in at like 1 a.m. Stay in this independent hotel. It's not like a Marriott. It's not like a Hilton. Right. It's just
some guy who's just decided to open a hotel. Yeah.
Couldn't speak a lick of English. I can't speak any Chinese. I get in there. The room key I got in the door, but the lights don't work. I couldn't figure out the shower. So I just flew like 20 hours, and I just like, you know what, I'm just going to bed. And then I got up the next morning. I was meeting a friend that was flying in from New Zealand, and then we were going to travel together. So I get back on a bus with I'm guessing maybe 60 people.
Yeah.
They all just look at me. I've got golf clubs. They're all just got normal luggage.
You feel like a giant over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone just stares at you. So the bus was meant to go back to the airport, and I was just going to get off, meet my friend at baggage claim, and then we'll travel to the tournament. And I had no idea where I was going. Like, I was hoping the bus was going to the airport. Thankfully it did. Yeah. But if it didn't, like, who knows where I would have ended up.
So many great stories from that, though, right? So many just, traveling with the guys, it's nothing better than traveling with a good group of dudes.
Yeah.
Right.
It was, and that's kind of what kept me going. I'll be honest, there was some weeks that were really difficult. Like, they did a wonderful job with hotels. We would get really cheap rates at, call it Marriott, Hilton, whatever they were. But they were nice hotels. But the weeks that were out of the city and in a crappy hotel and the food was not great, I mean, you're there for a week and it's a long 7 days.
That's tough.
But
that is tough.
You relied on breakfast and lunches and hanging out with the guys at dinner, kind of talking about your day and what's going on at home. That's kind of what got you through.
Did Kelly come over to China?
She didn't. No, we had one really cool event that it was our tour championship, and it was in Hong Kong at Clearwater Bay. And Clearwater Bay is kind of like the Pebble Beach of Asia.
Okay.
There's a lot of money there. The membership welcomed us. They would just do a hell of a job. The golf course was amazing. So I always told her, if you're going to come over, you need to come to that one. It didn't work out. She never came over to China or Hong Kong, but my family, mum and dad, they traveled to my last event in Hong Kong. So that was cool.
That is awesome. Do you miss it?
I miss the competition.
Yeah.
I don't miss the travel. I don't miss practice rounds and preparing, but I do miss the Thursday to Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially when you go watch a golf tournament now or you watch it on TV and you just like, I played against those guys. I might have beaten some of those guys at the time. You're like, why aren't I there?
Yeah.
Right? It's such a bad feeling when it is. But
I felt like that for a while. Yeah. You play with a lot of guys over the years and you've beaten them, or you feel like you're just as good as them.
Yeah.
And then they make it on tour, and then they may win on tour and make $1 million or whatever. Right. And it makes you think about it. But, I haven't thought about that for a long time.
Sorry. I've had that moment a couple of times, and now I don't really think about it that much either, because like you said earlier, like, so much to be grateful for being out here, and like, obviously meeting Cali is huge for you, and just being in Oklahoma, like, it's, and I know your dad's just been in town for a long time. And it's my brother was here a couple of weeks ago, and like, they love it here, and it's great to have a place where they can come over and have a vacation, rather than like us going to a mutual place. Let's just go somewhere together. When they come to you, like, it's nice to host, right? It's nice to show off where you live, and there's no better place right now than for us anyway than where we are.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty special place. I get asked a lot why Oklahoma, but I mean, I've been here for 12 years now. It's just home. It's a great place, easy to get around. It's a lot cheaper, the cost of living, compared to the rest of the world. And the people are very welcoming and friendly. So it's a great place to live.
I do wish we had more weekly comps here than we have back home. That's the one thing I miss about golf here.
Exactly. It's a lot different to back home. We have a men's comp on Wednesday, or ladies comp on Tuesday, men's comp on Wednesday, ladies comp Thursday, and then men's comp Saturday, Sunday. So I do miss that, but we also play a lot of money games and Wolf and stuff over here that at this point I'd rather just play for money.
Fair point. Talking of golf, you also, like myself, had your first Masters experience this year.
Yeah.
How was that?
Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
I wish I could go every year. It was just amazing. Just walking on the property for the first time. Everything is so big, open, extremely hilly. You don't realize elevation. Like 10 is basically straight downhill, 18 and 9 are straight uphill. Over the years, I feel like TV and the picture has improved where you see it a lot more than you used to back when we grew up. But nothing prepares you for it compared to being there in person.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the whole operation, logistics, like the thought of everything. Like you go, if you want a soda or a coffee or a beer or a sandwich, whatever it is, there'll be 100 people in front of you, and you're in and out in 3.5 minutes. It is just unbelievable.
For me, I couldn't believe how how big the place is, but also how small some of the greens look. And even though they're not that small, like 15 green from the top of the hill looks tiny.
That was so we walked in, we did so a few friends of mine have been there in the past, and they said, as soon as you walk in, get your shopping done, get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Go buy a chair, go put it down on 16 green, and then just walk around. So that's what we did. We got out, spent way too much money, got our shopping, got that sent back home. That's another really cool thing they do.
Shipping stuff.
The shipping.
Yeah.
You go do your shopping, you got bags full of gear, and then you just walk next door and ship it back home.
Also, I know I spent money. I wish I'd have spent more seeing the resale price of some of the stuff.
That's what I said.
eBay.
That's what I said to Kelly. I was like, we spent X amount of money, and I would spend 10 times more next time, just knowing the resale value and just how exclusive everything is. But yeah, going back to the golf course, so we went down, put our chairs on the 16th green. So we were down there, we went on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
So practice round, then par 3 in the afternoon, which if I had if my first experience, like knowing what I've just done, if I had to choose a day, I would always go back Wednesday.
Yeah.
There's less people on the golf course because I've already done a lot of the things on Monday and Tuesday, and they're just going over to the par 3 waiting for the players. So you can walk around pretty easily on Wednesday. Yeah. But yeah, we watched Will Zalatoris and Cam Young. That was the first golf shots I've seen. Their second shot into 15. And they were both hitting, they hit a rescue or maybe a 3-iron. And honestly, the green looked like a dinner plate.
Yeah. It
was crazy. And they both hit it to like, I think Will hit it to like 12 feet and Cam hit it to like 4 feet from like 260. It was pretty incredible.
Because from up there, all you see is water, right?
That's all you see.
It looks like an island green because you've got water behind, which is close, but you can get to it, but it's not really that close depending on if you get a bad balance. But obviously, water's to the front.
Right.
But
yeah, if you fly the back of the green, hit the downslope with a 3-wood or a 3-iron, it's more than likely going in the water at the back. But you need to hit that landing zone to reach the water. Yeah, but that's all you see from the fairway is water.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
The other thing we also do the same is we're both in the real estate world.
Yeah.
How do you get in the real estate world?
So end of 2019, I was finishing golf. I was thinking of finishing end of 2018. I wasn't playing very good. I had a wrist injury. My back was giving me trouble. Kelly and I discussed that, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do next. So she's like, just go play another year if that's what you want to do, and we haven't figured it out, stick with what you know. During 2019, in that period, Kelly's sister Jenny, she got into real estate probably 18 months prior to me, and I could tell that she was starting to have some success after the first 12 months, and she was really enjoying it. So we had many conversations. She's like, I think you should get your real estate license. So she set up a meeting with my broker, who Malik Massett at Skybridge Real Estate. So we set up a meeting, discussed that I knew nothing about real estate over here, basically. Our company was, we have a real estate team, construction development team, and property management. On our development side, we were starting to get ready for some big projects, and I don't think he really wanted to hire someone that didn't know anything about real estate. Just wasn't the right time or fit. So he basically said, go get your license. As soon as you've passed the test, give me a call and we'll see if we can do anything. Yeah. So we met again, and the next day he gave me a contract to sign, and I got into it. Yeah. So that was kind of my introduction to real estate. Just watching Jenny, another good friend of mine, was a realtor who's been on the podcast, Denver Kitch. Prior to getting into his new business, he was a realtor. So I knew a little bit about the real estate game, and I thought I would like the lifestyle in terms of like playing a little bit of golf. You can meet people, network, and just work. Just
continue to do what you've been doing, right? Instead of like making money playing golf.
I think I really would have struggled just going from golf, doing what I did for so long, to going in an office for 8 to 5.
I tried it. It didn't last long.
I just don't think that was a good fit for me. Yeah. I could see Jenny was really enjoying what she was doing, and I thought, you know what, let's give it 12 months and see how it would go.
Yeah.
But that was another interesting time as well. I got my license in, I think it was January or February 2020. I got in the office 6 weeks, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So
welcome to real estate.
I was freaking out for a minute.
Yeah. So I mean, it's worked out, right?
Yeah. No, things are great. It's been wonderful. Yeah. The first 12 months were tough. Obviously, COVID. That was difficult. I didn't have any clients. You're just new in real estate. I'm not from here. The first 12 months were tough. Yeah. It took, I think, 9 months for my first sale. And then as soon as that closed, it seemed to snowball. Right. So it was, as soon as I closed that first property, it picked up pretty good. So
with moving kind of with the golf stuff, can you get your AM status back and start playing?
I can. I've thought about it. I would like to. The reason I haven't is obviously being a PGM member.
You got a lot of perks from that.
I got a lot of perks and benefits for that, and also worked 3 or 4 years to try and get those. Sure. I just don't want to give those up. Yeah. The last few years, I'll be honest, I wasn't enjoying golf. I didn't really want to play too much, and thankfully business was good.
Yeah.
I didn't really have time. I probably played 8 times in 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is not a lot.
Like competitively?
That was total.
Oh, total.
Yeah,
wow.
2021-22. Honestly, when we met.
So this year's really picked up
this year then? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got the bug back.
I think I was playing golf competitively and every day, and I've done that
it's a job.
Done for so long.
Yeah.
I just needed some time off to get away, enjoy other things, spend time with Kelly.
Yeah.
Spend time on real estate. It's a new career. And obviously interest rates were low, so
we were busy.
Thankfully, it was busy during that first 2 years. So I didn't really have time for golf, but the last 6 months I've played a lot more, and I'm actually enjoying it.
Good. Yeah, I think that's kind of like the common thing for a lot of like players that have kind of gone through a situation, right? Golf was a job, and they've stopped playing, and you kind of go through that 1 to 2 year like reset period,
Right.
and then you like get the bug back. And most of the people, if most people haven't done their PGM, right? So they just get their am status back and go play a US mid am or US am and like start dominating the mid am scene.
Right.
That's common.
Yeah, no, if I didn't have my PGM membership, I probably would have.
What benefits does that get you then over just being an am then, playing?
I mean, it's it's more just access to like good clubs for free.
Sure.
Especially when I go back to Australia, I can just call and say, hey, I'm a PGA member.
Would they even know if you dropped it? Or is it because it's in Australia they'd know? Or even here, like...
They probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
But it's just...
Principle.
It's not something I would do.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like I said, it's something that I worked for 3 or 4 years to get that. Now, do I ever think I'd go back and be a head professional? No. But during that time, I just wasn't playing any golf. I wasn't thinking about the top amateur events and stuff. So it's more in my mind now.
Yeah, I mean, there's some great am events out there in the new Elite Amateur Series.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the mid-am events are in Florida and at great places. And, you know, like the US mid-am this year is at Coyle Hollow, I think. No, like, Sleepy Hollow.
Like they always play these unbelievable golf courses.
And like I'm going to caddy for a friend at the USM in a couple of weeks, and that's in Denver at Cherry Hills. I'm like, I want to play here. I want to do this. And I never did the pro thing, right? So I don't have to worry about getting that. I just have to worry about being good enough to qualify. Yeah. But,
no, I probably should file for my amateur status because I was a pro for so long. I'm assuming it'll take 2 years, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Well, dude, been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing some stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
For people listening, how do they find you? Instagram, whatever it is. Website.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
X.
I'm with Skybridge Real Estate Development and Construction. So
awesome. And if you're listening and you want to tee it up and take me and Corey on, you're welcome to come join us out here. Plenty of time. Bring your money.
Let's do it.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at OklahomaHOF. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us on August 11th at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum for a celebration of hope featuring guest speaker Tim Tebow and musical artist Ben Fuller. Find out more and get your tickets at HIA10.com.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.